I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. My name is Dennis Roberts, and let me explain to you a few things to kind of help things go a little smoothly. There is a sidebar that each of you will see that you can either hide the control panel or open it. When you open it up, there is a chat thing that we will use for questions. Most likely we'll just take questions at the end. However, we will check at the midway point and see if we have some pertinent questions we need to address at that time. But Keith and myself will be available for questions after the end of the webinar. Again, my name is Dennis Roberts. I'm with Energy Efficiency Done Right and Advantage Window System. I am the president. To give you some quick background on why I should be addressing this topic, I've been an energy advocate for 12 years. I've been president of Energy Efficiency Done Right and Advantage Window Systems for over 10 years. I do serve in the National Fenestration Rating Council Task Force for Interior Attachments, and I am an accredited investor and accredited lecturer, and I am a published author on energy efficiency issues. Here you'll see one of the articles that I wrote for Energy Pulse on temperature disparity. It's very interesting that we're talking to you today because it was announced late yesterday that this is officially the hottest year on record, the hottest year since they've been keeping records of all time, they announced yesterday. And of course, a lot of you have seen, particularly in the United States, something like 1,400 new high temperatures on the average of at least every week. So it's been an incredible week, and it's a product that should be taken seriously and dealt with. Now let's talk about what I like to call the nature of the problem. Energy loss through windows is the largest, most variable loss in buildings and has a major implications on energy consumption and peak heating and cooling demand, according to the 2009 Building Industry Data Book. It is of major concern. Let's get into that in a little bit more detail. Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory is probably the most respected laboratory in the world on energy efficient issues and windows. In 2003, they did an in-depth study, and what they found out that in the United States alone, in that year, that windows were estimated to be responsible for 2.15 quadrillion BTUs of heating energy consumption and another 1.48 quadrillion BTUs of cooling energy consumption in 1 year. Now, we're not talking billions and trillions like the debts and bank bailouts. We're talking quadrillions, a significantly higher number. And again, windows alone are responsible for 2.15 quadrillion BTUs of heating energy consumption and 1.48 quadrillion BTUs of cooling energy consumption. This is a massive amount of energy loss. ASHRAE has another way of looking at that. ASHRAE is the Association of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers. They do some really great work. What they determined was that windows are responsible for 53% of the heating loss in a building, even though they're only about 18% of the surface. So you can see a massive amount of energy loss through windows and skylights. Architecture 2030 is a very advanced group for energy efficient issues. They are a group of architects who are very concerned about energy efficiency and clean air. What they determined in a study was that if we put on 45 more nuclear plants in the United States and we doubled our offshore drilling, that would only allow us to have 3% of our energy needs by the year 2030. 3%. However, if we make our buildings and homes much more energy efficient, we can address 11 times more, 33% of our energy needs by the year 2030 by making buildings and homes more energy efficient. That's why Edward Masria, the president of the Architecture 2030, has said the road to energy independence, economic recovery, and greenhouse gas emissions runs through the building sector. So that is the road to energy dependence and reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. You'll see shortly the greenhouse gas emissions are largely attributed to buildings. What we have right now in the world today is a multi-trillion-dollar wake-up call. That's because McKinsey and Company did a survey, and what they said is that climate change initiatives are going to have a huge impact and will create an industry of $7 trillion. And energy efficient products like Inflector can have a major impact on carbon emissions. So by becoming a part of this industry, you can become part of a multi-trillion-dollar industry. The technology that we're going to be looking at today has the potential to be the primary source of energy demand reduction globally and a major source of decreased emissions. After all, the cleanest energy is the energy you conserve. Window insulators can, should, and will be a force of global energy independence. With that, I'd like to introduce Keith Roberts. Keith Roberts is a Vice President at Energy Efficiency Done Right, and he's also in charge of business development. He's going to give us some very important information on building envelopes. With that, I'd like to introduce Keith Roberts. Good morning, Keith.
Thank you so much, Dennis. My name is Keith Roberts, and I'd like to welcome you to this webinar. So, what is an Inflector window insulator? Well, Dennis is going to get that in just a few minutes. It simply is a solar collector and a solar rejector. Buildings are universal and shelter virtually every aspect of our lives. As a result, buildings have a significant impact on energy use and the environment. According to U.S. Energy Agency, homes and commercial buildings use 71% of electricity in the United States. That's 71%, and will be responsible for 75% by the year 2025. So according to NREL, or Obama Magazine, is quoted, buildings are responsible for approximately 38% of the U.S. carbon dioxide emissions. 38%. Inflector is a tool which will stop that or reduce it significantly. Not stop it, but reduce it. So in order to increase energy efficiency in buildings, we just take a look at the building envelope. The building is basically a shell, and it's made up of windows, doors, walls, foundation, floors, roofs, skylights. The envelope is a barrier between the carefully controlled temperature of the indoor environment, where we process this air through an HVAC system or air conditioner, and you maintain inside your building, and the fluctuating outdoor environment by allowing or blocking certain amounts of light, heat, air, cooling, humidity. The building envelope functions as a filter, if you will, like a coffee filter. That's what basically Inflector window insulator. It's a coffee filter. It stops that bad taste, or excuse me, it stops the impurities from coming in your home, the radiant and solar heat. So if the envelope works well as a barrier and as a filter, you'll use less energy, thereby extending the life of your HVAC system to control the light, the temperature, the humidity, and the fresh air levels. The cost-saving objective is this: money in your pocket. The cost-saving objective is money in your pocket, and this is a great tool that Inflector window insulators does by simply the building will lose heat in cold weather and gain it when it's hot outside. Your basic cost-saving objective is to minimize the cost to correct these losses and gains. And according to the Energy Efficiency Guide for Business, the objective is to minimize energy costs caused by unwanted heat and loss. And unwanted heat are clearly stated. We need to stop the infiltration, reduce the heat transfer, control the humidity, and control the sunlight. So in stopping the infiltration, we prevent the leaking in of outside air, and likewise prevent the leaking out of inside air, which you've paid to treat either through a heating or cooling process. Reduce heat transfer, thereby minimizing the transfer heat through the materials in the building envelope, whether it be the roof, the walls, whatnot. Heat always flows from the warmer environment to the colder one. So it's based upon an R value, which is a measure of resistance to heat flow. And this is sort of confusing. We have walls, attic insulation, everything's R value except for windows. It's U value. This is what the window industry does to confuse us. There's a formula to translate that, but in simplicity, windows have an R rating of between 1 and 5. The control humidity, controlling the movement of water vapor in and to achieve appropriate humidity levels for the health and comfort of our employees. The protection materials such as the wood, the relative humidity should be between 30 and 60%. And my opinion, the most important thing is controlling the sunlight. By letting the sunlights heat and blocking them out when not wanted, you can reduce the levels. As you saw, ASHRAE Standard 90 does state we lose up to 53% of our energy through our windows. So the building envelope under microscope, the foundation basement R20 internal vapor barrier is great. The walls insulated to R20 external building wrap. It's great. The attic insulation is anywhere between 20 to all the way up to 100 now from what I've read, which is an optional radiant heat barrier. That's really good. Heating and cooling, high efficiency HVACs, high SEER ratings is becoming more and more energy efficient. Heating and cooling ductwork is good. Windows, here we go. Double pane argon glass filled window has an R value of 4.25. That's not good. That's pathetic. So in the end, R20 insulation in the basement foundation, R20 in the walls, minimum of R40 in the attic, all the way up to 80, R40 with the heating, cooling ductwork. Windows, R1 to 1 to 5. That's pretty pathetic. That's the weakest point in the building envelope. This is what we address with Inflector Window Insulator. So the truth about windows is a single pane window loses 20 times as much heat as the same area in an adjacent well inside wall, and double glaze the windows lose 10 times as much heat. Windows lose and gain heat in 4 ways. It either be through conductivity, convection, radiation, which is the movement of heat as infrared energy through the glass, and air leakage, hot and cold exfiltration, infiltration. These are the ways we lose that processed air from our home or business. So during the wintertime, radiant heat comes through that window. Solar heat coming in through the window, damaging UV rays, fading furniture, and your window shades, carpet, and air infiltration. So windows provide daylight and a view. The point of having a window is to see through it, not to cover it up with a blind, a window blind. That is such a perfect statement. A window blind. Why put a window blind over it when the point is that, you know, it simply is that a point of having a window is to look through it. So windows are the highest per capita source of infiltration in the envelope. So during the winter, the window performance, solar heat's coming. Well, that's good. Damaging UV rays, so that's not where they're darn. Nighttime thermal heat loss, leaving the home, exfiltration, that's money leaving your pocket or your customer's pocket. So let's take a look at the objectives to control the sunlight, reduce the heat transfer, stop infiltration, and control humidity. Well, blinds and shutters, shades and curtains, well, they control sunlight some, yes. Do they reduce heat transfer? No. Stop infiltration? No. Control humidity? No, they do not. Well, let's take a look at window film, especially on the winter perspective. Does it control sunlight? Yes, but it stops that heat from coming in during your home. This is why Inflector Window Insulators is a heat magnet during the winter. It magnifies the heat, and I'm going to show you that in just a second here. But does it reduce heat transfer at window film? No. Stop infiltration? No. Control humidity? No. Solar screens. It's nothing more than having a piece of carpet over your window. I used to sell solar screens. It's a great product. We ripped over 1400 of them off of one building out at Lackland Air Force Base because, you know what? The Air Force said they weren't doing the job. So reduce heat transfer? No. Stop infiltration? No. Control humidity? No. Not benefits for a coat with limited lifespan. So double pane and triple pane windows control sunlight? Well, no, they don't, but they do reduce heat transfer, stop infiltration, control humidity. Inflector. This is where, and the only solution addresses all 4 by controlling sunlight. Yes, Inflector. Reduce heat transfer? Yes, Inflector. Stop infiltration? Inflector, yes. Control humidity? Inflector, yes. It is the engineered solution. With window inserts, the most comfort enhancing under 5-year payback, long lifespan, and UV protection. So, the energy efficiency done right research development team has found that only one product worldwide that effectively addresses the energy efficiency problem, and that's Inflector. It is a see-through radiant barrier. That's exactly, and this is more simply as you can put it, it is a see-through radiant barrier for windows. Again, as I can stress, the point of having a window is to see through it, not cover it up. So we are one of the pioneers in window efficiency. This one-way heat transfer reversible Inflector is an engineered solution which addresses more than just the reflectance of solar heat gain. Inflector window insulating material was designed to address all deficiencies of the building envelope pertaining to windows by effectively giving you a beneficial control over reflectivity, emissivity, absorption, radiant heat gain, solar heat gain, privacy, infiltration, condensation, heat loss in the winter, as well as being a passive solar collector, absorbing sunlight and radiating free heat in the building. And this is has been scientifically proven by Texas A&M University, and Dennis will get in that in a second. So the reversible inflector window insulating material puts three useful properties to work. Reflectivity. The reflective side aluminum was chosen for two reasons. First, to reflect solar heat gain back out through the windows. Emissivity. Second, and most important, aluminum has a low emissivity of between 0.3 and 0.5. This means that only 3 to 5% of the radiant heat is emitted through the aluminum, reflecting the heat in the direction the aluminum side is facing. And absorption. The reverse side, black side of the system, is a passive solar collecting one-way heat transfer material, absorbing the sun rays and radiating heat into the building, thus reducing the amount of heat. How does Inflector work? Well, let's show you. First of all, when in the summer configuration, it stops the radiant heat. Inflector radiant barrier window inserts are positioned so that the reflective surfaces faces out, as this rejects 72% of the radiant heat, reducing the greenhouse effect in buildings. Reflects of solar heat gain back out through the window, reducing overheat building. Stops 92% of the damaging UV rays, reducing in sun damage. Controls glare, especially for computers and television. Provides daytime privacy at one-way vision. Provides cool daylighting with a view. Reduces the load, wear, and maintenance of HVAC units. Inflector reduces cooling demand, which reduces energy consumption, saving you money. So, heat reflected, according to an EDM heat transfer test kit, heat reflected from window top after Inflector installation, single pane percentage of heat coming through the window is 85%. Percentage of heat coming through a window. A double pane is 70%. Double pane low E, 54% of the percentage of heat coming through the window. By installing Inflector, the single pane is reduced to 17%, or an incoming heat reduction of 80%. Double pane cleared by installing Inflector is reduced to 15%, or an incoming heat reduction of 78.8%. And double pane low E decreased by installing Inflector down to 13%, or 75.9% of the incoming heat reduction. 75.9%. That's amazing. So in the winter configuration, what does Inflector do? Well, number one, it magnifies that heat coming in your home. Let me restate that. It magnifies the heat coming in. That's free heat coming in your home. They were reversed so that the silver side is facing inward. And we'll be able to show you this on some Inflector infrared pictures from a FLIR camera, where it got up to 108 degrees, magnifying that heat coming in your home. In this mode, the insulators reflect the thermal heat or magnify the heat back into the building, reducing heat loss through the windows. In direct sunlight with the black side of the Inflector facing outward, the Inflector is a passive solar collector absorbing the sun's rays and radiating the heat inward. A 4x4 window in direct sunlight can produce 2,096 BTUs of heat per hour, which is an equivalent of a 600-watt electric heat, according to Texas A&M University. The damaging UVs are reflected back outside, and the Inflector air barrier reduces heat air loss exfiltration. This reduces the load, wear, and maintenance of HVAC systems. This is why they installed this out at Secured Hill at Lackland Air Force Base, over 1,800 windows, because the simple fact is that they anticipated a less than 5-year payback, or a savings on that particular building of $100,000 a year. That's $100,000 going back in their pocket every year, saving the taxpayer, and creating a comfortable environment for employees. This reduces the load, wear, and maintenance of HVAC units, reducing heating requirements, reducing the heating costs, saving our customers and us, the taxpayers, money. So if cold is the issue, not only does Inflector reflect the heat back in the building, thereby reducing heat loss, but has a solar loading absorption and one-way heat transfer. So sunlight absorption rates, according to Yellett Solar Energy Laboratories, heat absorption of plain glass is 6%. Heat absorption of the black side Inflector is 51%, or an increase of heat absorption of 750%. That is amazing. In fact, Inflector window insulators addresses all the seasonal changes throughout the year, keeping it as a solar collector, solar rejector, while keeping the heat from entering the building during the summer. This is why the Visa building in England decided to put Inflector window insulators in their building, because they saw, point is that it does what it says. So I'm going to get back to Dennis Roberts here, President of EDR. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great week. I'd like to welcome back Dennis Roberts, President of Advantage Window Systems and Energy Efficiency Done Right. Here you go, Dennis.
Keith, thank you for that very interesting information, very informative. And I might add on these things, we just barely touched base. We've got some good attendees today in the skylight business that all these things are actually, effects are actually multiplied by skylights, because skylights catch more sun per day than the windows do because they're overhead. So all these effects are actually multiplied for skylights. What we're looking at right here is 3 different windows. This is at the Texas Conservation Commission in Austin, Texas, the Texas State Capitol. In the background, that's Darrell Royal Stadium on the University of Texas campus. But I want to call to your attention, this is 3 windows. On the far left window, there's no window insulator. On the center window is an Inflector insulating panel, and on the right is an Inflector insulating roller shade. What you can immediately see is a reduction in glare. Well, that glare is indicative of solar heat gain. You can see the light on the edge of the window here, and look behind the inflector, how much less light. All that heat that's coming in, 75% of it is now being turned around and sent outside the window. This particular gentleman in his office, when you walked in his office, you couldn't even see his face because there was so much glare, and he couldn't see his computer screen. We immediately solved both problems with the inflector. So again, far left, no insulator, and you have a lot of different issues. I'm going to take a quick look here to see if we've got any questions. Okay, no questions yet, so we will get back to the webinar. So now we're going to get into the real scientific proof of a lot of the things we've been discussing here. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know of any glazing product that's been tested as extensively as Inflector, and you're going to see that in the next few minutes. Why? Because we do more than other products, so we're testing all those different features. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a little demonstration of a test that was done with EDTM glass test equipment. EDTM, based out of Toledo, Ohio, makes glass testing equipment for the National Fenestration Rating Council. And what we're going to do is we're going to use their BTU solar transmission meter and their heat lamp to test different types of glass. We've got different exact copies of different types of glass, and we're going to test them and see how they test out utilizing this extraordinary test equipment. So what we're going to do is we're going to test a single pane, a double pane, and a low E piece of glass. Starting off with what we do is we calibrate the BTU solar transmission meter so it's reflective of 100% of the heat from the sun coming through the glass. Then we introduce the single pane piece of glass, and what we can see is that with the inflector, you're stopping with the regular single pane glass, only 15% of the heat is stopped. 85% of the heat still passes through in either direction. With the double pane, 70% of the heat passes through in either direction. So remember this, heat goes to cool. All the time heat goes to cool. So when the heat is inside the home or the building, it's trying to get out. When heat is outside, it's trying to get in. So glass will stop it in either direction. So what we see is with a double pane low E glass, 61% of the heat still passes through in either direction. So that's why you see so much heat being lost through the windows. Now what we're going to do is we're going to test the inflector. Now inflector does not work alone, it works with glass. But all by itself, using the EDTM equipment, what we see is that inflector stops 80% of the heat. 80% all by itself. Now what we can see is now we'll add the inflector in with the different types of glass. And with the inflector on a single pane, now we're going from 85% of the heat passing through to only 17% passing through. With a double pane, you're going from 70% passing through down to 15% passing through. With a double pane low E windows, you're going from 61% of the heat passing through in either direction down to 13%. That is an amazing test. So what we can clearly see is the inflector added to any window or skylight would immediately substantially reduce the heat gain or heat loss. How much so? Well, let's look at that same information graphically. What we can see graphically is that With a single pane, the blue is the amount of heat blocked. With the red is the single pane plus inflector. Again, blue and double pane blocked, double pane plus inflector. What you can immediately see is that inflector on a single pane glass is many times more effective than a brand new low E window by itself. Amazing. And what you can see also from the below graph is if you test for UV, which is damaging to your carpets and furniture, artwork, is that it works exactly the same way. Inflector on a single pane piece of glass stops many more times UV than a brand new low E window by itself, even with that coating. Okay, I'm going to take a question because it does address this. Can we briefly discuss the selling and pricing process? I certainly can. It's going to be more appropriate that I get into that at another point in this thing. So I will address that information later. Now I'd like you to look at a little demonstration. This is a cold demonstration. What we've done is we've taken a freezer, and where the door is, we've taken out the door, and where the inside of the door would be, we put a piece of glass, and where the outside of the door would be, we put in a piece of inflector. Now what we're looking at is a Celsius reading of minus 7.5 degrees. Now we're introducing the inflector. Immediately goes from minus to plus. Immediately, a massive change. So remember, your heat is going up against this cold glass. So now what we're doing is we're putting a barrier between the glass. Again now, below 7 degrees Celsius, minus 7.5 degrees. Let's introduce the inflector. Immediately, plus a difference of about 25 degrees Celsius, which is going to be about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we're looking at a hot weather test, a hot test. What we have is a furnace here. We're going to take our EDTM laser pointed temperature gun. We're going to aim it toward the heat. What we can see is over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we're on the Fahrenheit scale since we have customers in both the United States and outside the United States. Over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Introducing the inflector. Boom, how about 55 degrees Fahrenheit, 58 degrees. How about around 150 degrees difference by putting the inflector between the heat and the inside source. Now that is a heat barrier demonstrated. So now let's talk a little bit about infiltration. What has been determined is building air leaks in homes and buildings is an extraordinary cost. It is a critical factor in energy loss in buildings, and according to the University of California, Berkeley, it merits a lot of consideration. What they're saying here is that energy loss due to infiltration can be 6 to 9% of the total energy budget of the United States. 6 to 9% is from infiltration, air leakage into homes and buildings. And guess what? Most of that loss comes through the windows because the windows are most of the time have a seal on them. So what we have here is a letter from the National Defense Medical Center in Ottawa, Ontario. This building had an extraordinary amount of leaky windows. They knew that from a test. So they wanted to see if inflector A would help those air leaks, and B, they wanted to go in and survey the people who had inflector in their offices once they installed it and see how they liked it. So out of all these windows, they insulated 200 with inflector insulators. And then they did a test. What you'll see in this letter, it says the results were very positive and remarkable improvements were noted in the air leakage behavior of windows after the installation of the inflector insulators. Then they did a survey of the staff. And what they found out is that the insulators were highly recommended by the people who had them in the offices. The people that were the administrators said that they wanted to have the whole building insulated after this test. So again, amazing results. Inflector radiant barrier window insulators are the world's most complete window and skylight insulators. Inflector insulators deal with all the goals of solid enveloping and additionally have a solar collection benefit. So let's look at what some different kind of tests have shown. These are all independent tests about different problems with windows. The letter you just saw was from the test. It was tested by Canada Consultants Limited with senior engineer Errol Parak. The test said that the inflector substantially reduced air leakage through the windows by up to 71%, from 65% to 71%. Their comment, inflector panels provide a very good air seal. So what we have is instantaneous improvement on something that could amount to 6 to 9% of the energy cost, which is infiltration. Yellett Solar Laboratories did a test of the solar collection benefit. It's an independent laboratory, and it was their testing that showed that in a direct sunlight, a 4-foot square inflector window insulator can create heat of 2,096 BTU per hour, which is equivalent to a 600-watt electric heater. So for each 16 square foot of glass, you can have the heat gain in direct sunlight of one 600-watt heater. So 4 windows, 4 600-watt heaters worth of free heat. Now the real bonus is in the cold, now instead of losing heat through the window, you're totally turning that around and you're gaining heat. So it's a double gain, heat that you don't lose and heat that you gain. Texas A&M did a test on the insulating ability of the inflector. And what they found out on the study done called Inflector Solar Screens on Thermal and the Thermal Properties of Windows, they said specifically the U value is the insulating value of windows, was improved by 54% for the winter and 50% for the summer condition. So what we can see is by adding the inflector, you have immediately half again increased the value of the insulation value of each of those windows while doing all these other wonderful things. Northwest University in South Africa tested the inflector, and they wanted to compare energy loss to insulated windows versus non-insulated windows. So they took 3 similar offices. They put inflector insulators on 2, the other one no insulators. On 1 inflector panels, 1 inflector roller shades, the 3rd office with no insulator. After a carefully documented test, what they found out is that the insulated offices had an average of 30% less energy use than the uninsulated office. 30% less energy use by adding the inflector. That's dramatic. Solar gain. We used the EDTM test just a little while ago, and what you saw is comparisons, and what we found out is from that test that we dramatically improved the performance for reduction of solar gain. Dramatically, no matter what type of windows you have. Solar gain, particularly with this extremely hot weather, is a tremendous problem. Solar and radiant heat gain. Nothing will improve an existing glazing like inflector window insulator. Ortec Laboratories did an in-depth test on thermal transmittance properties, and what their test determined was under daytime solar gain coefficient conditions that inflector insulators reduced the solar heat gain by 49%. During nighttime thermal conditions, inflector had the effect of reducing the thermal transmittance coefficient by 37%. So that's keeping that cool air in besides keeping the hot air out. So that immediately shows that the thermal transmittance properties of any window can be improved instantly by insulating the windows. Now let's go to some infrared pictures. This picture is going to show definitely the insulating properties of inflector. What we've got is on a day that was 13 degrees in Maine, we've got a picture taken from an outside of a window. It was 13 degrees outside. The outside window surface temperature of this window was 16.3 degrees. Now let's go around to the inside of that same window. It's 13 degrees outside. We have 2 temperature points on this thermal image picture. Temperature 1 is the wall at 67.3 degrees. Even though it's 13 degrees outside, even though the outside surface temperature of that glass is 16 degrees, the temperature inside on the inflector is 64.4 degrees Fahrenheit, within 3 degrees of the inside wall temperature right between those studs. What you're basically getting is a well-insulated window that's similar to a well-insulated wall. This is a study done It was actually sanctioned by the National Fenestration Rating Council, in which I served one of the committees. And it is a study of the window performance for human thermal comfort. It was intriguing that what was found out in this study is that the number one reason people are comfortable or uncomfortable in their home or office relates to their windows. How close they are to the windows relates to their comfort level. There's major window influences comfort in a number of different ways. During the summer, long-range radiation is the primary dominant mechanism by which windows influence comfort. Also, solar radiation absorption, re-radiation affects comfort. During the winter, the major concern is convection loops that are created by cold outside temperatures and warm inside temperatures. All of these things are substantially improved by the addition of Inflector window insulators. So during the summer, the two major impacts for comfort are your inside window surface temperature and your transmitted solar radiation. In the summer, U factor is not that important, but on these two major impacts, nothing affects these as much as Inflector. We will substantially improve the inside window surface temperature, will substantially reduce the transmitted solar radiation. Now we're going to look at an actual installation of Inflector. This was done at the Gateway Club, or the Officers Club at Lackland Air Force Base. You can see the sun is creeping up on the windows right here. There are 107 pieces of glass across the front of this building. They had a big problem because the building faced west. The foyer area of the Gateway Club was the most uncomfortable part of the building, so they wanted to address that because they did a lot of the meet and greet functions in the foyer. So what they did is they decided to install the Inflector. These pictures were taken during the installation of the Inflector insulators, and what you can see is on the left picture there are 5 windows insulated and 7 are not. The 3 to the right of the door and 2 bottom ones on the left of the door are insulated. If you look, you can barely see outside through the uninsulated windows. Through the Inflector insulated windows, you can see the trees. You can even see the tiles outside. You cannot even see the tile squares outside through the uninsulated windows. To the right, you're going to see again those same windows on the right of the door that are insulated. The windows to the right, complete right, none of those windows are insulated. Now look at the carpet carefully. You can't even tell what color the carpet is. There's so much solar gain. Look at behind the Inflector. You can clearly see the colors. We're substantially reducing. We're sending 3/4 of that solar heat right back outside, and we're sending 67% of the radiant heat that's coming off of that bricks, the concrete, the asphalt, the columns. All of that absorbs and re-radiates heat. The Inflector stops 67% of that heat. Another very important point in this picture is all this heat that's coming through to that carpet will bleach the color of the carpet. But even worse, that is what you call greenhouse heat. All the heat is absorbed by materials like floor carpet, like draperies, is absorbed and it's re-radiated as long-range waves. It comes into the glass as short-range waves. It's re-radiated as long-range waves. Long-range waves are opaque to glass. Glass is like a wall to short-range for long-range waves. So it's trapped inside. That's what they call greenhouse heat, trapped inside the building. I'd like to call your attention. This is a commercial for Inflector by one of our manufacturers. It's showing how quickly you can reverse the Inflector insulators. Here is Inflector. Here's the Inflector vertical shades, Inflectors on skylights, Inflector pull downs. That shows an actual panel, the verticals right here. Now I'm going to run this commercial again, and I'm going to stop it. I'm going to show you something that's going to be absolutely amazing. Again, you're seeing the different applications. This next picture is a winter picture. Now look right here. If you notice, just before that Inflector insulator was taken off, you could see outside. Now look in the sunlight. This is in the winter picture, but even in the winter, look at the glare that comes in. Tremendous amount of glare. Now I'm going to start this back up and watch what happens when the Inflector insulator is reversed. You could not even see that home or building or trees before the Inflector was installed. You get, and if you look back at that skylight picture, a lot of times you can't, because of the glare, even see the color of the sky. With the Inflector now, you'll see those blues in the sky again. This is a very interesting picture, and it tells a heck of a story. If you look, this is an advertisement again for the same company, Solarized, up in there in Maine, and their customers love the Inflector. What you see here in this middle picture, on a day when it was 24 degrees outside, again we use an infrared picture. Point number 2 is the temperature on the wall, which is 72.9 degrees. If it's 24 outside, the normal surface temperature of a window is going to be about 40 degrees, or a skylight. But with the Inflector in the winter mode, in the solar collection mode, the temperature on that Inflector is 112 degrees. So you're actually bringing in over 50 degrees of warmth through that panel. If there was no Inflector, that temperature would be 40 degrees. So you'd be losing 30 degrees of temperature that your warm air would be hitting. So that's a delta difference of over 40 degrees. Over 70, excuse me. Yeah, over, let's see, 70, we're going from 112 to 40, yeah, 72 degrees of improvement that your heating is hit against. So now you can see why your heating works much less hard with your Inflector. This is another advertisement. It's black and white advertisement for the Inflector. So again, now we're going to get down to the packages. People were talking about the pricing on the packages. We've got manufacturing packages, and we've got dealer packages, and we've got sub-manufacturing packages. But here's the main thing. You can be a leader in a very important category of energy efficiency by coming on board with Inflector as a dealer, a sub-manufacturer, or a manufacturer. You'll actually be making the products. Dealer package started under $3,000. A full-blown manufacturing package is under $60,000, but it includes components, manufacturing components and material, tens of thousands of dollars worth of supplies, and you can be in the business in a very strategic category of energy efficiency. Again, the dealer package, what people were asking about, has a lot of components, including the glass test kit, demo kits, master dealer manuals, actually Inflector to install in your home, and for under $3,000 you can be in business as an Inflector dealer. Again, different package levels that are available. This is the manufacturing table that actually comes with a manufacturing package. This is actually 10 feet by 8 feet. It's got a hydraulic arm here that comes up and drops to hold the material, to cut the material nice and square. You can see a setup of a potential manufacturer. You need under 1,000 square feet to be a manufacturer of space of the Inflector. It's actually, manufacturing is too complex of a word because it's actually just assembly. None of it's complex. It's not like building a gas engine. It's just putting some parts together. The back, you can see the saw that's used for cutting frame. This is the panel assembly table, and you'll see a roll of Inflector in the back behind the panel assembly table. With this panel assembly table, you can assemble a beautiful Inflector panels that are going to really help people out. So here's a few things to consider. On a U.S. level, energy loss to windows is over $25 billion a year. That's energy equivalent to all the energy we get from the Alaska pipeline lost only through windows. We're only talking about energy loss through windows. Let me leave you with a couple of views here, and then we're going to be taking some questions. This is a view of a beautiful restaurant that overlooks a marina before the Inflector. This was the way it normally looked when people came in mid-afternoon, early evening, because the glare and the heat that came in through the windows. Now when we add the Inflector, this is the view that you can get. The picture before has no energy efficiency and no view. Now we have energy efficiency far, far better than the other one, plus a nice view. Now people can get right up close to the windows without the heat and without the glare and still have a great view. And this is what the people really came to that restaurant for, is that view that they weren't getting through the Venetian shades. Two more thoughts I'm going to leave you with, and then we're going to go right to the questions. Now, this is a picture from the EPA, and what this tells us is very evident. Looking at this picture, where is your energy loss? Can we tell where the energy loss is? Everything is very consistent on this thing except guess what? The windows. Everything in the building envelope is going to be very comparable to the thermostat temperature, but the windows are going to be relevant to the outside temperature. Let's insulate those windows and make the windows comparable to the inside temperature rather than comparable to the outside temperature, and stop that 50% of heat loss that goes through the windows immediately. Now, this is very, very important. If I can leave you with one thought, this is it. Almost half of the total energy produced in the developed world is inefficiently used to heat, cool, ventilate, and control humidity in buildings. To meet the increased high thermal comfort levels demanded by occupants, the utilization of advanced materials and passive technology would substantially reduce energy demand. Well, let me tell you, what is Inflector? Advanced materials. It's a composite, advanced materials, a passive technology. It doesn't cost anything to run Inflector. It works once you put it in for as long as you have it very, very effectively. So half the total energy is lost by buildings inefficiently. We can dramatically change that and dramatically affect, more than anything else in the world, energy loss. With that, I'm going to be leaving this up. I'm going to have to reduce the screen for just a moment so I can pull up the contact information and answer your questions. All right, I'm going to leave this contact information up, and then we're going to answer some questions for you. Okay. Question was distribution, selling, and pricing process. I'm going to tell you that's involved. I'm going to tell you, anybody that out there that would like to have what we call a custom webinar addressing your association, Keith and I are very open to do that. What we can do is we can again set it up with a go-to-meeting webinar scenario for your group, and we can pull up additional things that address your exact concerns. I will tell you this, that Inflector, the pricing is effective on both a payback, ROI, and a return on savings, on saving reduction, and most of all on comfort. And we can gladly prove that as the testing does. What is the approximate life of the product? We don't even know, because I'm going to tell you some Inflector has been out there in use for over 20 years. It's very simple. One part of the Inflector side is aluminum, which we know is very durable and long-lasting. The other side is a laminate that has a UV protectant in it. So it's got protections on both sides. And number one, it's inside. So it is very long-lasting. Again, we've had some up for over 20 years. The warranty is 7 years on the product, and not many products have a 7-year warranty. But the payback is quicker than that. So it's very, very long-lasting. I've had mine up for 10 years. It looks like the day it was put in, again, because it is inside. How is humidity controlled by Inflector? That's a good question. I'm going to tell you, Inflector is very, very popular in England right now. It's one of our hottest markets right now. Well, what is the biggest issue in England? It's humidity. And let me tell you why Inflector control humidity. It's because our insulating panels, even though you can see through the Inflector, it is a solid piece of material. When we install our panels, it creates a dead air barrier. So we're stopping the infiltration. As we've seen in the report from the Canada consultants, it stopped 71% of the infiltration. It stops it by creating a dead air barrier between the inside and the outside. Every window will leak in time, and the older they are, the more they leak, because the seals get hot, they get cold, they dry. If you open a window, the more you open your window, the more infiltration it will get, particularly when you have your single hung windows or your sliding windows. And your windows that open in or out, they leak a lot. When we did the building that Keith mentioned, the Security Hill building, that was the old windows that used to crank out. It had tremendous infiltration. When you put the Inflector in correctly, it creates that. Now, the vertical shades and the roller shades, do help with infiltration. They're not a trapped area. They do create a different temperature zone that does slow down infiltration. So yes, that was a good question, and the Inflector is phenomenal, as proven in independent tests for, okay, the question, excuse me, let me get back to the humidity. The way we control humidity is that infiltration will cause you to lose your humid air, gain humid air. Humid air costs the most to heat and cool because you're actually heating and cooling the water that is in the air. So if you reduce the infiltration, you're not having to reheat and recool that humid air. So what we're doing is we're keeping and trapping more air inside, not letting it change to the outside. That's how we control humidity, by controlling the infiltration. The presentation, our PowerPoint presentation, and we are recording today's presentation, we have on our Dropbox. So people who are interested, we can access our Dropbox because it's such a big presentation, particularly when we record it and we have all the input. So yes, you can get a copy of the presentation, but you will need to request if you're in Dropbox already. And I highly recommend Dropbox. It's a free internet storage site, and you can store very large files there, and people can view those files or even download those files once they sign up and become a member of Dropbox, and we send you an invitation. So we not only have this presentation, but we have 4 more that are customer specific. We have them for the hospital industry, we have them for the military, and we have them for commercial businesses. We have custom presentations. Is all or most of your information on the website? We have actually 3 great sources of information that we have. We have 2 websites out there now that are very, very good. Many of our manufacturers and dealers have more sites. In fact, our partner in the UK has done some great testing, and he's done an installation, some very impressive installations. He went to the Building Research Establishment, and they had the product certified for England and the EU. That test was so impressive that they've got the Inflector on display at what they call their Innovation Products Center. So if you go into the BRE, which is outside of London, you'll see an Inflector installation, and people who are working in there will tell you how much better that the building feels since they've added the Inflector, because there's a lot of glass in there. So you will see a lot of information. So the 3 sources of information are the websites, very good information. In fact, on their energy efficiency website, which is the same as what you see in these contact, Energy Efficiency DR, has our testing available. It has you'll see what the experts say, and you can actually download it. We also have the Dropbox, which has tremendous amount of testing. We were recently tested by the Singapore Solar Institute of Research. They did an extensive G factor test, and that's available on our Dropbox. And then also we have our own YouTube landing page, tremendous amount of videos on how the product is made, how the product looks from our YouTube landing page. So there's 3 great sites for a lot of information. What is the operational temperature range? Let me just say this, that Inflector works best in extremes. We recently sold our first Inflector in Dubai. The people in Dubai, we did a show over there, and they were very, very impressed. What they know is they've got no relief from window tint, they got no relief from solar screens, and window coverings actually compound their problem. They have, because of the amount of glass, many dysfunctional buildings. Inflector will turn those dysfunctional buildings into functional buildings. What we do is we reduce the temperature range in buildings dramatically. So air conditioning is specifically designed to lower or raise the temperature. The heating, air conditioning is designed to lower the temperature by 20 degrees. So if it's 112 degrees, then you're now reducing the temperature to 92 degrees. 92 is still too hot. Inflector will now increase that range, so now you can control that temperature much different, and now instead of it being 92, we can get it down to mostly probably the mid to upper 70s, a dramatic difference in temperatures. We did an installation at Sierra Vista at Fort Huachuca For the Army base, we reduced the temperature immediately over 20 degrees in the foyer of the JAG building, which was a big problem. They were going to do an in-depth test, but they saw such a dramatic improvement that they called the test off and they did installation on 4 more buildings. Who are your competitors, companies that sell products similar to yours? We don't have a direct competitor. We actually pioneered window insulators. No product out there has the unique combination of factors that the Inflector has. We've now got 3 more products coming online soon. We're the innovator. We developed the category called window insulators. We introduced it to the National Fenestration Rating Council and to Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, and we're the world leaders in development of new products. We've got several patent pendings up and several patent pendings coming in for new products. Square foot cost to the end user for the roller shades. I'm going to tell you that that's difficult to say because of every one of these products can be installed a little bit differently. Size matters, but I'm going to just tell you this. Inflector on an existing window is cheaper than a replacement window and 4 times more energy efficient and has a much better payback. So it's very cost efficient, and it costs similar to some of the designer shades that don't do 1/4 of what the Inflector does. So it's comparable to a Hunter Douglas medium to top end shade, but much more energy efficient. The cost is very cost effective, and we are open to letting people test the worst offices and put the Inflector on it and see for themselves if it's a value. I'm going to tell you, people buy this product like Fort Huachuca did and Lackland Air Force did, and then they buy it again. Warranties and guarantees are provided. The warranty is 7 years. We have a 7-year replacement window policy, and it's as good as any in the industry. And they do come with the manufacturer dealer's package along with a customer care letter on how to care it. This is a performance product. This is not a decorator product. There are very few window performance products out there and none that comes close to the Inflector. Website address, you're going to see one right here, energyefficiency.dr.com, just as it's shown on this address. The other one is inflectorpanel.net. On those you'll see some of our dealer links. We always put our dealer links on there. So energyefficiency.dr.com, just as you're seeing these email here, and inflectorpanel.net. At the Energy Efficiency DR, you'll see a few videos. You'll have access to the testing, and you'll have access on both of those to our dealers and manufacturers' websites. What is the responsibility once you become a manufacturer? This is a two-way street. We maintain responsibility. We're constantly coming up with new products and new testing. Our manufacturers, we break down our customer segments into 4 customer types: residential, commercial, governmental, military, which has been a very good category for us, and institutional. Institutional is hospitals, schools, senior daycare centers for us. That's a huge category. Hospitals, very important for cleanliness. Nothing will improve the efficiency of a hospital like the Inflector, because we reduce the infiltration, which is a problem, and they don't ever open the windows in hospitals anyway. So the Inflector is going to be a very solid addition. Energy costs are a very significant part of running a hospital. We can reduce those on a permanent basis. Hospitals are long-lasting buildings. Inflector is a long-lasting product. Our manufacturers need to serve their customer segment well. They can do this through their own ability, or they can set up a dealer network. In England, they've set up very effective dealer networks. Now they're not only covering all of the UK, but into Ireland, and they've just expanded into Italy. So what your responsibilities are to consistently sell product. We come to a quota. You have 5 years to grow your business. You can reach your quota of serving the materials, all your customer segments that you're in charge of, and to sell a minimum amount of product. If you don't, we'll review that, and we can change your territory size, or you can change the customer segments that you're working with. You have an extraordinary opportunity with an extraordinary product. It's up to you to deliver. We have commitments, and then you have commitments. Who's the best person for technical questions? I'm going to have to humbly say that would be me. Keith knows a lot of information, but we've also got other great people affiliated with our organization. We've got 2 partners in California that are now sustainability building certified. They took the sustainability building courses. They can show you how to get lead points with your Inflector. So that's very, very important. So sometimes we refer to other people. But again, the reason that I am an accredited lecturer and belong to the NFRC and write articles is because I'm knowledgeable about enveloping and window energy efficient issues. And we've got piles of files of information that we can relate to you, again, proving the effectiveness of Inflector. Best person for sales and distribution questions, that would probably be Keith Roberts. But if Keith's not available, I can take those questions also. And we've got good information available in follow-up webinars. How resistant is the material to tear? It's very resistant. It can be punctured. So if you take a pair of scissors, a knife, that's the area, because it can be punctured. But it can also be temporarily repaired. But we even do have a replacement policy for damaged material for the first 5 years where you can get that back. But it is resistance to a tear. It gets past the tear test because it's a composite material of 3 different materials bonded together to create a stronger material, but mostly to perform. The material is even embossed because embossed texture will refract the heat. So it's reflective, it's refractive, and it is emissive. It has the emissivity involved. How delicate? Actually, we don't even like to call this film. It's not film because people think of film that goes directly on a window. This is much more durable and long-lasting than film. Window film and actually low-E coatings of window start deteriorating the moment that they're put up. In fact, some films you'll start seeing bubbling. If you put on a pair of polarized glasses, you'll start seeing when the film is starting to go bad. But here's something I'd invite you to do is you can take the EDTM glass test kit and you can test it, and the window film will look very good when you look at the solar heat gain. But then when you take your laser pointer temperature gun and you hit the surface temperature, and it'll be hotter than the air temperature because windows, even with tint on, absorb heat. So now your cool air is being blown up against hot glass. We saw some tinted air. It was 96 degrees outside, and the temperature on the window with the tint on it was 125 degrees. So how do you like your air conditioner blowing on 125 degrees? It's not delicate. But we do ask you to handle it a certain way to keep it looking and working good. How long does it take to set up as a manufacturer? Actually, you should be able to set up in a manufacturer from the point of ordering material in 3 weeks to a month. We do have part of the process of our manufacturing actually includes a visit from somebody from Energy Efficiency Done Right who will help you in how you set the equipment up, how to manufacture the product, and even how to recruit dealers and train dealers and employees. Will we manufacture for other dealers? Yes, you'll manufacture for your dealers, and all the time I'm contacting dealers to see if they can manufacture I'm contacting manufacturers to see if they can make for another dealer. Recently we had someone who wanted some product in a hurry, and I had to get one of our partners to manufacture that part of things. So one, I'll refer people that come to this webinar to manufacturers for that area so they can see both for customers or for dealers or for sub-manufacturers if they can work for them. So we'll help you cultivate other dealers, and yes, we will ask manufacturers to make for other customers. We have a large job being bid right now where we're probably going to need some support from manufacturers. Can an Inflector shade screen be installed on the exterior like a typical screen? No, that would defeat the issue. The part of the reason the Inflector is so long lasting and so effective because it's installing inside. But the good news is part of our R&D is working on a product that will be able to be installed from the outside. We still think that right now the best case, because of the creating the dead airspace and because of the temperature that interfaces with heating and cooling, is to put the product inside, but we will have in the near-term future some installations that will be able to be installed from the outside. What new products are being developed? We have a new product that's going to be, and it's going to be a thermal break. Actually, the Inflector is a thermal break. Thermal break is one of the new technologies out there. What they like to do is when you put in a double pane window, now what you're going to happen is as the outside window pane heats up, it heats up till it reaches what's called a level of equilibrium, or it cools down till it reaches a level of equilibrium. Then it starts passing the heat or the cool onto the second pane till it reaches a level of equilibrium. Then it starts infecting the inside. So what you have with a thermal break is you're separating those surfaces. So one of our new products is a thermal break. We've got a new shade product in the works, and our partner in England has developed a new product that has actually been installed now that incorporates the Inflector material inside between glazing. So it's a new product installation. He calls it SG90 because it has a 90% solar heat block. So it's stopping 90%. You saw a double pane low E window still allows 61% of the heat to come in. Now with the SG90, it's only 10%, 6 times more efficient than a brand new double pane low E window. So that's called the SG90. That will be available. It's been installed inside of a plant with great success. It looks and works great. What kind of manpower is needed for manufacturing? Actually, it's not that much because you have, again, this is not high tech, it's low tech. The roller screens can be made in probably under 20 minutes. The roller panels, you have to make the frame and then roll the Inflector in it. Once you get into production, you can do those relatively close to that same time. So generally, unless you're a large operator, you've got your workforce. And by the way, we've got one of our manufacturing prospects coming to San Antonio to view which is our home base, to view an operation, and we're going to show them how their setup is. We can also show you on the YouTube videos the actual how the products are made. But to be specific, your sales force, which can actually be you, a worker or several workers, according to how much volume you're moving, and an installer. And actually you can have your installer be also your person who makes the product. So it's not that employee intensive to have your operation going. Any feasibility for applications of this product to the auto industry? Absolutely. The new product we're making, you can actually put on to glass. I think the best application are for new products. They could actually offer it as an energy efficient. Again, the product wouldn't be on the windshield, but it would be on all the rest of the windows. There are applications in the auto industry. There's applications in the boating industry, the RV industry, the trailer home industry. There's applications in all of those industries and extensively. Where do the materials get shipped from for manufacture? And do they ship from one location? No, they don't. Specifically, the material is going to be coming out of one location, which is in Massachusetts generally. And we have our components right now in North Texas near Dallas-Fort Worth. So once you come on board, You'll be getting basically the material from you order through Energy Efficiency Done Right. It's shipped directly to you. The components come directly from Advantage Window System, our partner that makes the components. Well, it looks like we've got those questions. I'm going to tell you, these are the best questions we've ever had, and it allows us to really get in depth. We had some great questions with a lot of good detail, and for that we thank you. We appreciate your interest. Again, look at these contact names, phone numbers. We are very accessible. We answer questions, and we've got piles of files of information available, both from our own personal PCs and from our Dropbox, from our YouTube landing page, and there's virtually a plethora of outstanding information we can supply you with. And again, we have available the custom webinars. So please make a note of these phone numbers if you haven't already, and these contact emails. Again, we've got other great people involved in the operation we sometimes refer to. We've got someone with our direct company over here who's a certified energy manager. He used to do work for a school district as their energy consultant, and he's worked for the military as an energy consultant. He's written articles. He's available to talk to. And then we've got, again, our two partners who are sustainability building advisors. And then we've got our partner in England who's very, very knowledgeable. He's done shows around the world, from England to Dubai to Hong Kong to Shanghai, showing the Inflector. And he's very, very well versed. So lots of sources of information. With that, I'm going to conclude our webinar. We thank you very much for joining us. We thank you for the great questions and the interest. Please do something great for the environment, and do something, and you'll be glad you did. Keep in mind, we are very open to people taking and doing an installation on their home, their office, to check out the effectiveness of Inflector. That way you can experience the installation technique and the benefits. I know that I've got Inflector in my home. I'd never live in a home without it, because it makes a big difference. I had some issues. Inflector is great for solving issues. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we will be happy to talk to you in the future.